Firstly, thank you very much, Jeff, for coming to my show.
Absolutely. Happy to do it.
So I thought to tell about you and the work that you're doing to my audience.
Okay.
So can you please introduce yourself?
Sure. So my name is Jeff Barr. I'm coming to you from Seattle, Washington in the U.S. I am Vice President and Chief Evangelist for Amazon Web Services. I've been working at Amazon for a little bit over 20 years.
Yeah, that's what my first question is. Like you are into AWS for about 20 years. So how's that experience?
It's been a really exciting time, and it's been a really wonderful way to really finish up the later years of my career. I've been in IT since I was a teenager, and I've gotten to see a lot of innovation, a lot of change over the years. But when I was young, I really thought that my kind of maybe the last years, my 40s, 50s, and 60s, those might be kind of the quiet, stable, boring years. But instead, they have been absolutely the most fulfilling, the most exciting, the most fun of the entire career.
I can see you started your IT career as a programmer.
Well, you could say I was a programmer, but a little bit before that, I actually started working in a computer store back at the very, very beginning of when personal computers were a brand new thing. Like today, we take desktop computers for granted, but there was a time not so long ago where they were brand new and some people believed in them, but a lot of people were very skeptical. So I got my real start in tech, really working and learning and actually selling those early personal computers.
You are from 2006, the very beginning stage of Amazon Web Services.
Actually, even a little bit before that, I joined Amazon in 2002 when we were just getting started with web services. Before when they were mostly a technical curiosity, where most technical people had a little bit of understanding of them, but business people were still not quite understanding what they were all about. And when I saw the very first Amazon Web Services, way back 2002, I really saw something new and different and thought that it was something that I wanted to be a part of.
So have you thought that it is going to be a global service and it is going to help mankind in all the ways?
No, I never could have envisioned all of the scale and the success and the diversity of customers and products that we have grown to. Initially, I joined the company and we had a few early web services. We had an e-commerce service. We had some other kinds of information services. But this was before we had services like S3 and SQS and EC2. So we had these very initial services, but it was innovative for its time. There was a lot of promise. There was this definite recognition that we thought developers would be important customers for us. And that's what excited me, this idea of building services and then in my role as an evangelist, taking those out to customers and really explaining to them what these services are and kind of lighting up their brains a bit, if you will, so they can understand what these services are all about and get them to start thinking creatively so they can build awesome tools and businesses and applications.
So how Amazon Web Services is thinking when it comes to human problems?
Well, we're always all about solving problems for real customers. Very, very famously, we have this phrase where we say, start from the customer and work backward. So what that means in practice is that some companies will have like an R&D or an innovation lab where they will really they'll dream up a lot of interesting new products, but often it's more their creative energy and their personal interests versus what customers actually need. And then when these things go from the innovation lab into reality, sometimes they're a good fit for the market, but sometimes people kind of look and say, not quite sure what this is all about or what problem this is really supposed to solve for me. So we don't do it that way. What we do is we spend a lot of time connecting with, listening to, learning from our customers, and then using that to really guide our invention and our creativity.
So when we can expect a data center in the space?
In what particular space? Oh, in space. Oh,
Yeah.
that's a wonderful question, and I could not actually even guess at a particular decade when that would happen. But if you look at some of the projects we've done with NASA and with private companies working to get to space, and with we got we had a snow cone device that was up actually on the International Space Station for a bit. You can see that we're doing a lot of really interesting work very, very directly with the people that are working to build permanent facilities in orbit and on the moon and beyond. So your guess is as good as mine, but clearly we'll be participating very, very deeply in these different efforts. NASA, for example, was a very early adopter of AWS. They looked at it very, very, very close to the beginning. They looked at the power of AWS and especially the scale of storage. And they realized this was a very good fit for their longer term missions, where in the past, if they were to let's say launch any kind of a mission where there would be like remote sensing and data gathering and bringing data back to Earth, my understanding was that the original model for those kinds of projects was they had to acquire all of the storage for the entire planned length of the mission up front before anything even launched. And so because of the long lead time between here's the idea and let's build the spacecraft and let's get it into orbit or to the other planet or asteroid or wherever you're going, that was very expensive. It was meant that they weren't getting the best of technology, but it also meant that they really couldn't scale if the mission grew beyond what they initially started. So the idea of being able to put data in the cloud and to have the cloud just give them something state of the art at the point when they're using it and to scale to whatever level of storage has really allowed them to do more interesting kinds of work and to focus more on the research and on the science versus on the IT and the storage.
So Amazon Web Services is giving a great service and giving the information to the next coming up years human beings with this service. So how this service is going to be helpful for the upcoming like 50 years or 100 years? How it is going to be?
Wow. So predicting the future even 5 years in advance, I think is really challenging. So going to 100 years, it would be hard to even guess. I would actually like to turn your question around a little bit. And instead of focusing on the service, what I'm finding that's really impressive and very encouraging and positive about cloud computing is that it's a new technology that people all over the world, they're finding interesting. They're finding that it's relevant to their interests, but they're also seeing that it's a wonderful opportunity where they say, if I can earn get some skills, if I can get some certifications, I can get a great job in the cloud computing field. And they're looking at it and they're saying, this is something that's been around for a little while, but it's clearly got a lot of growth and a lot of excitement around it in the future. So I look at it more from like, this is an opportunity for people to find something that if they want to attach themselves to this at the start of their career and be cloud developers, cloud experts, cloud architects for the next 20, 30, 40 years, I would think that that's a pretty safe bet and a good choice for them to do.
So you are into technology from long time. You saw the evolution of it and you saw what is happening in it. So what are you when you came to technology and what are you today?
In what sense?
In technology, how it is grown and
I would say I've been a technology fan since I was probably 5 years old. I remember very, very distinctly my grandfather, who passed away before I was 5 years old. He was an early technologist, and he would share little bits of his electronics tools and materials with me. He was like me. He was a builder and a maker, and I think that technology has always just had the power to just make the world a better place. And that when in the space of one career, one lifetime, you can see so much innovation and so much change. And I think about the lives of like parents and grandparents who, like your grandparents, my grandparents their life could span from the first airplane to landing on the moon. That's an amazing change in less than a century. And so yes, there's always a lot of challenges in the world. There's always a lot of negative things going on. But you look at the power of technology to empower people to get a good career, to make lives better for themselves and for their families and for their future. I'm very encouraged by that.
So what you understood about connection between human and technology?
Well, ultimately, there's always humans inside. You know, the humans are the ones that are having the great ideas and doing all of the really hard work to actually create all of this technology. And you never want to lose sight of the fact that there's, whatever we look at, there's people that have thought of this, who have done the research, who have done the hard work, who have done experiments, who've made a lot of mistakes, but then had some successes, and then finally said, okay, I've discovered something new, I've invented, I've created, I've made something, now I want to actually share it with the world. So you never want to forget about that part. I think that's just so important.
So what is the success secret of Amazon Web Services? Because it is doing very well around the world and helping a lot of human problems.
Well, I think the secret is really what we call the customer obsession. This idea that we're always listening to our customers, we're trying to get ideas from our customers for where do they want to go next with their business, with their application, with their tools that they're building. We try very hard to be very good listeners and to take that information we get from them and bring that back to our managers and our development teams so that we can build things that actually meet needs of real customers.
So from the basic services, from the fundamental services, you came to a very big services which are helping the large organization. So what do you say about it?
Well, as we continue to progress, these services are going to get more complex. And I think the challenge is always that maybe the service could be very complex inside. But for me, as an evangelist and as a blogger, part of my job and my challenge is how do we explain this so that any person can just look at it and say, this looks interesting. I understand what it is, what it does, how it might let me solve my problems. And so a lot of my job is really about kind of learning and understanding and then deciding on good ways to share and to explain.
So you visit a lot of conferences, also you give public talks. So what kind of questions that you listen?
Well, the questions are all over the map, as we like to say. From in the very early days, a lot of the questions were just about like, why is Amazon in this particular business? And we explained that it's all about giving power to developers, letting developers build applications and scale more easily. After that, the questions then for a while migrated to like, is the cloud secure and what are the challenges around cloud security? And of course, we had really great answers for that. And these days, I don't think there's one particular area that all the questions really focus on. It's a little bit more of an educated audience at this point, where we often have customers now that have been working with AWS for 10 years or more. So there's certainly a lot of new people coming in, and they're always welcome. And I love to meet new people that are coming into the cloud. But the kind of the baseline knowledge is a little bit higher now than it was 10 years ago.
So it is a fast growing company, and it started with very small level. Now it increased the number of data centers, and also the new data center is coming to my city as well, Hyderabad.
Okay. Right. And again, this is all based on customer needs and customer requests. And there's two different, so we call a collection of data centers. The official word for that, we call that a region. And so within a particular region, we'll always have several several data centers, and we choose the locations of these data centers with a lot of care. So we know that customers want to build applications that are very reliable, and so that if there's any kind of a technical issue, or maybe like a power issue or a network issue that might affect one data center in a region, we always make sure that each of the different data centers, which we call availability zones, actually we call multiple data centers together can be an availability zone in a big location. We make sure that they each have independent network connections and power connections and so forth, with the idea being, as a developer, you put part of your application in one zone and the other part in a second, maybe even in a third. And if any little issue happens to affect one availability zone in a region, your application can still stay running because you've got that redundancy in there. So we choose these regions based on where customers are asking us, and there's a couple different reasons why customers might want a region in a particular location. The first is that they might be building applications where the latency or the performance is very important, and they want as low latency as possible between their customers and the application. So they're always saying, we'd like a region in our country, in our area of the country even. But the second is for certain kinds of very sensitive applications that store different kinds of maybe financial data or personal data. Many countries have rules that say that kind of data must be stored and processed within the country. So that's why we're always trying to get more regions built across more and more different countries around the world to support these kinds of applications where the data stays inside the whatever country the region happens to be.
You're planning to put it under the water?
I have not heard of any plans of that nature. If there was an advantage to doing so, I'm sure we'd investigate that and give it consideration.
So you're solving problems for different cultures, different religions, and different country people. So you started your career in AWS and you saw how it is growing and how it is solving problems. Today, even a small part of the world also is using the internet and using the cloud services. So what do you say? How do you see this change?
Well, it's certainly we're getting to be a more and more connected world, and if people don't have desktop computers or laptops, they're probably connected via cell phones and tablets and so forth. And we have to look at history and say that what are cell phones? Cell phones are 30 years old, 40 years old at the very, very most, and they were very expensive. They were special purpose. Only a few people had them. That early technology was voice only, and then we could do text messages, and now we can do pretty much anything we'd like on a cell phone. And we have to say this is the future, and that at some point the majority of the world's population, the adult population, will probably own cell phones and use that as one of their primary ways to access applications and the internet.
So when it comes to the hardware, when it comes to the infrastructure, the companies or the individuals who are using Amazon Web Services, so how much time period they can expect their data to be stored in AWS?
That is totally up to the user. There's because our customers are effectively application developers of some sort. They are choosing what data to store and what storage systems and services to store it. They get to choose their own encryption, and they're going to be the ones that decide what is the actual lifetime of that data. So we never look at or scan or touch customer data directly. That data is always our customer's data. It's not something that we would ever go inside of and look at.
So I'm an AWS DevOps engineer. I'm getting trained right now.
Excellent.
I'm using some services, EC2, some basic services to learn to become a DevOps engineer. So I'm studying about it. So I know I have interviewed a lot of architects who are working in cloud, also developers who are working in cloud. Most of the people are very comfortable and working with Amazon Web Services Cloud. So what unique thing that you are doing in the market?
Unique thing that we're doing, I think, is really the speed of innovation that we do, where we are constantly launching either new services, new features for existing services. We're launching new regions in more parts of the world. We are launching additional instance types to give you access to the newest kinds of chips and processors, and always at faster processors, lower speed, lower power consumption, more flexibility. And certainly there's other companies trying to do the same, but I think we've really stood ourselves out as innovating quickly and innovating in ways that are useful to our customers.
So different industries are using this. It started with very beginning level, but today everywhere it is being used. So what is working?
I think that we can look at almost any industry anywhere in the world, and they are either using the cloud or they're thinking about using the cloud at this point. There's a lot of understanding that the traditional model of building and running your own data centers is really, it's not the right thing to do anymore for a lot of customers, because it's expensive and needs very specialized skills to build a data center. But then generally when companies build a data center, they'll put a particular generation of hardware in that data center, and then they're going to want to try to use that hardware for somewhere between, let's say, 3 and 7 years. But the problem is that so much innovation happens in the space of 7 years that company and their developers and ultimately the customers of that company are not getting the benefit of 7 years worth of innovation in our industry. So the customers that go to the cloud, they say, well, we don't have to build our own data center. We don't get locked into a particular generation of hardware. We can let Amazon keep giving us more and more instance types with faster, cheaper, more powerful chips all the time, and take advantage of that very quickly and very easily. And so that lets them innovate more quickly, focus on their application, focus on their business, focus on their customers, rather than on just kind of what we call the racking and stacking, the actually building physical data centers.
Is it easy for you to manage and give service and come with a different kind of services to solve different problems?
Oh, I definitely don't think it's easy at all. I think we have some of the best architects and managers and developers in the world that are all working very hard to make this happen. Now, we have a lot of experience. We have a lot of senior people that are working on this, but just to pick one of the very interesting challenges. When we build a new service and let's say I write a blog post about it and we announce it to the world, customers read the blog post and they say, oh, that looks really interesting. I should try that out. I can use that pretty quickly. On day one, when a service is launched, you need to be ready for thousands, tens, hundreds of thousands of customers might actually sign up and start using that service within 24 hours or 48 hours. So you have to build that scalability into your application and your service up front to make sure that you're ready for whatever number of customers might arrive. So at the point when we launch a new service, we need to make sure first that the security is absolutely bulletproof and everything is fully protected and that service is secure and the data it stores is secure. And we need to make sure that scalability is there so that when all these customers show up and they start putting lots of data or lots of requests, that service is there and ready to meet their needs.
Of course, it is user friendly and also it's cost effective. So I can see everywhere in the world AWS is connected. So what that common thing that AWS understood in order to reach everywhere?
A common thing. Well, I'd say that very early on in the business, we recognized that this wasn't really specific to any particular kind of application or to people in just one part of the world. And so we very quickly said, well, we're going to launch with our first region, which was in the US, in Virginia. But then we quickly said we're going to expand globally. I can't remember if our first... We then, I think, expanded to Singapore, and then we expanded to Dublin, Ireland, but always going just the word more global doesn't quite make any sense, but we're always going kind of further out from our starting point and getting to more and more locations over time.
So what kind of questions you listen as a vice president of Amazon Web Services from different experts from the world?
Well, the hardest one is always what you asked me earlier, is where will we be in 50 years or 100 years? Impossible to imagine. I sometimes when I kind of read some science fiction, I try to kind of think, well, have we now created like the world computer that now is kind of, and in a sense, the cloud is very similar to sometimes you read about this idea of this world computer, and it's made up of a lot of individual regions and zones and data centers and servers and services inside, but it's all connected together. Does it all kind of gain consciousness and act in some like weird way? Probably not. I mean, it's ultimately a computer, and it's running applications and code. But we have built this.
Take that is 3 minutes and 22 seconds.
That was my Alexa talking to me, unfortunately. Okay, all right, turn that off. We have built this world computer in one sense. Now, the other way is that each of these regions and zones, they do run independently, unless you as the developer decide to move data from region to region or build applications that establish connections from region to region.
So Amazon Web Services is doing doing a outstanding job, because before human used to save information in different places, from like it can be in rocks, or it can be in books, or it can be in somewhere some other places, but this technology, this cloud technology, is actually giving this information to the next generation or next upcoming human beings. So how do you feel working in this? Like, you are being very responsible, and you're being the leader for doing this amazing job globally.
Well,
for humanity.
I think we have a big responsibility in what we do. And when I think of our storage services, for example, you look at these storage services that store trillions of objects, and effectively these services will remain in existence for forever, right? There's never going to be a point anytime in the future, in 100 years or 1,000 years, where these services don't need to exist anymore, right? There will be applications that will be 100 times descendants of the things that you and I are building today, that are going to count on data that was stored today. And I actually find that fascinating, this idea that we're going to have let's just take a service. Let's take Amazon S3, which you're probably very familiar with. Objects stored in S3, I've got objects now that are 15 plus years old that I've stored. 100 years, 200 years from now, they'll probably still be there unless I decide to delete them, right? But that is such an amazing responsibility that we have, to make sure that these services have built-in redundancy, that as we're upgrading them, that we're always cross-checking to make sure that the data is always as stored, that we're always just taking that extreme care with our customer data.
So AWS went above the sky till now?
Say that one again?
It went above the planet?
We have actually. We have a little portable device called a snow cone, and we as a kind of a demonstration and a trial, we took a snow cone device and we sent it up into orbit on the International Space Station. It was used to capture some images and to do some machine learning processing on those images.
So what kind of problems still the challenges for AWS?
The challenge I really think is really making sure that we educate our customers properly, to make sure they understand what we have, what it does, how they can put it to use. I think the one thing I hear the most from customers is that there's a real need for more developers, DevOps, architects with the right cloud skills. And so we're always thinking of new ways to create training materials, to make it more and more accessible to people all over the world, regardless of where they are or what languages they speak, different kinds of training programs, course materials, all those different kinds of things. We have a lot of different programs, probably too many to even think about or to list, but we're always thinking about education and training as part of our mission.
So you become a global connector, non-technical people who don't have technology knowledge, also understanding Amazon Web Services and also talking about Amazon Cloud.
Indeed.
So what that magic happened?
Well, the magic, I think, is always making sure that you know who you're talking to and getting a good sense of what is their knowledge level, what is their technical base, and then you never talk down to them and say, let me use like baby words or something. You need to approach them in a way that works for them. And that is one of the more enjoyable parts of my job, is this ability to kind of quickly understand where people are at and then explain things to them at a level that should hopefully work for them. So
talking with computer and talking with human beings. So how do you compare this?
Very, very different. Like I was a little kind of thinking about earlier, you need to always remember that there's people inside everything you do, and that there are people that are having good days, they're having bad days, they've got challenges in life you might not know anything about, and always just treat people with respect and dignity, no matter how you meet them, where you meet them, what the situation might be.
So you work with different experts. So you talk with them. So what kind of discussions happens, and what kind of output that you want to get?
Well, if I'm talking to customers, I generally want to get a good sense of what are the top couple of challenges that are facing our customers. Is it, and often it's coming back to what we would call the skills gap, that says the customers are just trying to hire more and more developers with the right set of cloud skills. And, sometimes they're running internal training programs. They're trying to what they call kind of upskill or reskill their current developers. But they're also saying we need to, even in addition to that, we need to keep on hiring more qualified developers. That is by far the number one challenge I'm hearing, is that customers do grasp the cloud and the value and the power of the cloud. And they're now saying we just need the right people to help us to get there.
So what's your next plan?
Me personally?
Yeah,
or
you as a person personally, as a professional, as a vice president, also the plan for Amazon Web Services.
Well, let's see. I'm not thinking that we'll see any gigantic changes in the way we work at AWS. I think what we've done so far has worked really well. Listening to customers, taking those facts back to the teams, inventing and building on behalf of those customers to solve their problems. That's what we'll be doing for AWS. As far as me, I'm going to keep on doing the same things for a couple more years. I love to have interviews like this. I love to talk to people. I really enjoy doing recordings. I love to do live streams. I'm still kind of in the process of making my office here kind of perfect for streaming and for recording. I'll continue to visit customers. I've got a trip probably I'll make to probably go to South America at some point this year. Probably a trip or two to Europe as well, and continue to visit with customers as necessary.
So Amazon Web Services came with a revolutionary thought in the market, also being number one in the world today. So working for it and being the leader for it, and telling people what to do and what not to do and how to make things happen. So every day you're waking up in the morning and doing this. And who is motivating you, who is pushing you, and who is telling you do this?
That's a really wonderful question. And oddly enough, I don't wake up and ever think, wow, I've accomplished everything and say, well, we're number one and we're great and we're perfect and we're the market leader. We generally just don't kind of tend to think like that at Amazon. We're really always thinking, well, we've accomplished some really great things so far, but what is our next big challenge, and where are we going to go next? And we're a lot more focused, I think, on on the future and on solving great problems and solving problems in ways that our customers like. We don't tend to like pat ourselves on the back or celebrate or say, yeah, we're the best, we're the best. We're always saying, we're doing okay. We're kind of humble about it. We're doing okay. Had some good successes. Let's just see if we can do even better the next time around.
So being in technology for 20 plus years, what do you say about your problem solving ability?
Well, I think that the problem solving is a wonderful skill to keep on developing. And to me, one of the things that has worked very well is I'm okay jumping into problems where I don't understand all the details and I don't know exactly how to get from the starting point to the ending point. And I've always got, both at work and in my personal life, I've got several different projects always going on where I'm just saying, okay, here's the beginning and here's the end, and I've got a lot of steps from here to there. Some of them I know, some of them are just kind of routine and you just do the work. Others are a little mystery you can find out with a quick search or two. Others are like, I don't actually know how to solve this problem yet, but I'll figure that part out and I'll get there.
When it comes to values, can I say Amazon Web Services understood the human network? That's why the reason they created computer network.
I think that's very valid. And I know that one of the things that I tried to do from the very start of my time at Amazon was really make sure that I was connecting with the right customers and just going out and speaking to customers, whoever they were, wherever they were. In the early days when I was the only one really going out and doing this, if it was a coffee shop or a library or some dusty little room somewhere, I'm okay. I'll go do that. I just wanted to meet customers and listen to them and to learn from them.
So people who works in Amazon Web Services connect like the connectivity that happens in Amazon Cloud?
Kind of. We're pretty well connected. We do a lot of emailing. We do a lot of video calls, a lot of Slack messaging, all with the idea of let's stay pretty tightly connected and share what we know.
So at last, what do you say to the world who is watching you and listening to you? Because a lot of cloud experts, also non-technology people, wants to know what you say.
Well, I always tell people to make sure that they are lifelong learners. We're in a really exciting, really interesting, really dynamically changing field. You can go to school, you can learn a lot to get started, but use that only as a base. Take whatever you know and put some time on your calendar every week to say, the last 4 hours of every week, that's my learning time to study something new, learn a new service, learn a new feature, learn a new tool, improve your working processes, your working habits, but get that continuous improvement and that continuous learning. Make that part of who you are and what you do every week.
And also to the business owners.
Same thing. Exactly the same thing.
Awesome. So at last, as an observer, as a president, vice president of a very large company, what is your observation about my work? Have you seen any videos of mine on YouTube?
Unfortunately, I've not had the chance to watch any of your videos yet, but I most certainly will before we get this one published. And I know how hard it is to actually do good interviews and create and edit videos. So good luck with doing that.
I personally did Masters in Software Engineering.
Hang on just 1 second. All right. I don't usually talk this much in one day, so.
Okay. So I personally did Masters in Software Engineering. Also Bachelors in Computer Science and Engineering. Right now I'm getting trained as AWS Cloud DevOps Engineer. I also take interviews of experts like you around the world. I took more than 550 plus interviews of top experts in the world from all the companies, including Amazon, including Netflix, Microsoft Azure, also Google Cloud, also from all other companies, also filmmakers, also from different industries. So talking with experts like you, listening to you people, your work experience, how you people are solving problems, how this experience is going to add for me if I work in DevOps engineer, or if I work in cloud, or if I work in IT in coming days.
Sure. I think that's amazing what you're being able to do. Like 500 interviews is a lot. That's a lot of work, and you deserve a lot of credit for doing that. So keep up that great work. That's amazing.
Can I put this video on my YouTube channel with your permission?
Absolutely, for sure. Yes.
Can I also put this audio and video clip on my podcast, website, internet, social media, everywhere with your permission?
Most definitely. Let's do it.
Thanks, Jeff. Keep going. Keep doing the great work, and make the planet the better place to live.
Will do. Wonderful to talk to you. And thanks for your persistence in reaching out. I know you sent me several messages before I had a chance to respond, but I get a lot of messages.
Finally, I interviewed you. Thank you, sir.
My pleasure. Absolutely. Best of luck. Have a great day.
Thank you, sir. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.